Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story, and today I'm going to show you how to make this bow tie bracelet. This is made in some of our largest sizes of O-rings, which means it's going to be very chunky on the wrist, but you can see it's got some dimensionality to it. You can see this darker purple row sticks out a little bit further than the lighter purple. We have this project available in 2 different colors as a kit, so all the pieces would be all ready to go for you, and you can just put it together. You can either follow our written tutorial or our video that you're watching here. Either one will show you how to do this just fine. And this is appropriate for a first-time beginner. This is a really simple, easy project. Kind of shows you how to push your rubber O-rings into place and manipulate things a little bit. As you can see, this row of smaller rings is going to sit down and the center row kind of pops out. So this is great for learning to do some different techniques with both chainmail and working with rubber O-rings. So I sure hope that you'll enjoy it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so to start this weave, you can see that I've laid out all the components that we're going to be linking together. And this is what these components look like when I have prepped them. So before we start, what we're basically going to do is we're going to close half of our jump rings and we're going to open half of our jump rings. So the closed jump rings are going to be used for this first component that we're going to make. And then the remaining open jump rings we'll make to link together our project. Okay, so in order to do this with these closed rings and our 15mm O-rings, you can see I'm going to use the piece of string like a needle. So I pull the O-rings onto the string, and then these jump rings are closed already. So I'm just going to string the needle through them, and I'm going to pull this down, and I will just simply pull these about halfway onto both of these rubber O-rings. Okay, so you make a bunch of these. Check your size chart and see how many of these components that you need to make, and we can go ahead and pre-make these. They're going to roll around on me, so I'm going to set those off to the side. And you can see to lay these out for you, I just kind of folded these out, and this is how it's going to end up in the piece. So if you want to fold them out before you start connecting them, it might make it a little bit less confusing for you. But basically I laid things out this way so that you could see that these smaller size 10mm rubber O-rings are going to be sitting kind of in the middle of this. So it'll be sitting between each end of this rubber O-ring, and then the jump ring will attach here and here, so it connects 2 of our components together, and then this is going to sit in the middle. So this first one obviously is going to be hanging off as we get started, but it will be the one that connects up at the very end. Okay, so I'm going to take my open jump ring. I'll pick up 2 of the 10mm O-rings, pass through, let's see, oh, okay, pass through this O-ring. Let me open this just a little bit more so it fits through the 15mm O-rings a little bit better. So I'm going to pass through the large 15mm and then through the other component, and you see how this is laid out, and then pick up the 2 remaining 10mm O-rings. Okay, and then we're going to close that jump ring. All right, so now we need to do the bottom of this, but if you want to, you can just flip this over, and the 10mm that we just applied will be on the bottom. Pick up the 2 10mm O-rings, pass through the 15mm O-rings of each of the 2 components we're working with, and then pick up 2 more 10mm O-rings. Okay, and then we'll close. Okay, so I'm going to lay that down. So you can see that this is shorter. So this, you'll see what happens because these parts are shorter than our center component. It's going to make that center kind of bow up for us. So again, this is the same thing. I just only need to pick up these two. These O-rings will already be here for me when I get to that part. So I'm going to pick up two 10mm O-rings. I'm going to pass through just the top 15mm O-ring, and then I'll pass through the top 15mm O-ring of my working chain, and then I pass through the 10s that are above that. Okay, and then we'll close this jump ring. And now to do the bottom of this, we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to flip it over so the top is now the bottom. We'll pick up the two 10mm O-rings, pass through a 15, the other 15, and then flip these back, and we're going to pass through both of our 10s that are in the center. Okay, and we're just going to continue to do that until we get this to the length that we want. You can refer to your size chart to make sure you have the right number of components to do this with, and just keep working on this until it's the length you want it to be. And you can already see that the center is starting to pop up, and that the 10mm are kind of sitting below it. And we're just going to let it do that naturally. It's going to take its shape naturally. And I'm going to continue adding more rows, and then I will be back to show you how to finish this. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished my length of this, and you can probably tell seeing this, this is kind of a very structural piece. It almost immediately forms a dome, and that's because these outside rows are quite a bit smaller than the inside rows, and that's okay. Let that center row kind of pop out for you, and then when you get to the end, you can see that this is just like what we've been doing. We're going to pass a jump ring through these two 10mm O-rings, through the 15, through this 15, and then through these 10mm O-rings, and then we'll flip it over and we'll do that on the bottom. Okay, so let me bring my pliers in here. Okay, so we'll pass through the two 10s, through the 15mm O-ring, and then we're joining back to the other end of the piece, so that 15mm O-ring, and then the two 10mm O-rings. Okay, and don't worry if this is all just smooshed up at this point. We'll stretch it out once we've joined both of these jump rings at the end. We'll stretch all this back out and let these 10s pop down underneath the middle row, just like you see in the rest of this. Okay, all right, so I flipped it over. This is my last jump ring, so I'm going to go through the two 10s, the 15, each 15 from the start and end, and then through the remaining 10s. Okay, and there we have it. Okay, so you can see this is a little wonky, but if you just push these components out and let these 10s sit back towards the wrist more, this is it. Okay, so it's going to be stretchy enough to get on. I like to kind of put these on by working my finger underneath instead of rolling it on, because rolling it on can actually push things out of formation. This is kind of a very loose formation in this bracelet. It's nice and chunky. It's nice and open, so you get a lot of the geometric out of it and can really see the bow tie in the center. And this one's fun to wear, but this is a very chunky version of it, and hopefully we will have a much more micro version of it for you very soon. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this project, and be sure to like and follow us on YouTube. You can find this and other projects at beadmeastory.com, as well as the supplies to make more of these. Okay, thanks so much for joining me. Have a great day.